Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeff St. Laurent, and as you can see, I have a phenomenal guest in the bullpen ready to go. But before we bring Dana on, I help coaches transition to a full-time business. I have tons of great resources on my website, sellingcoaching.com. Check out the university, check out my private Facebook group. And if you want to get started right in my community, right on the homepage, there's an offer to get my dog. But of course, I'm not giving you my dog. It's a great resource, which is the launching your full-time coaching business, the first 3 vital steps. Enter your name and email. You'll not only get that great resource, but it'll put you in my community so you can get some great resources on a weekly basis. So now on to some bigger and incredible things. Dr. Dana Gionta, welcome to my show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Jeffrey. Yes, This is great.
So we came across, I did a webinar probably a couple months ago now. And you kind of popped up again. And I worked with Dana. We were discussing in the back room before we went live back in 2020. So
Right.
we're talking like over 4 years now, actually, because it's 2025. So
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a while. And she just authored this bad boy, which is a beautiful, fantastic hardcover book, which we're going to be talking about. But before we get into that, because we kind of have to tease you all a little bit, let's rewind, Dana, so people get because the coaches are watching this, right? They want to get a feel for how they can be doing this for themselves, right? How can they look at someone like yourself and be like, how can this work for me? So let's rewind back, 2019 or so, et cetera. Talk people through a little bit of, what was your life like career-wise? What was going on that ultimately brought you to coaching, where you felt like, hey, I want to do a coaching business?
Sure. Well, I want to say Jeffrey's wonderful, by the way. So if you need a coach and some extra guidance, yes, hire him. I started coaching about probably 2011. I got introduced more to coaching. I started it a little bit before, but I took a program, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And so that helped. Even though I'm a psychologist, I wanted to learn the difference between coaching and therapy and really have that clear. So, so I started getting more involved in that. But my business, it wasn't really, it was sporadic, the clients that I was getting. So that's why I decided I wanted to work with you and see if I can really create more of a system to help me, get more consistency in the clients that I had. So that's why, that's what led to me reaching out.
Yeah. So in doing psychology, correct?
Yeah.
And how long have you done that for?
You mean being a therapist or?
Yeah, therapist, yeah.
Yeah, so I opened my business in 2006, and I was doing mostly therapy until about 2008, 2009. And then colleagues introduced me to executive coaching and life coaching. And so that's when I never even heard of it before then. And so that was my introduction. Then I took some courses in it, and I did a training to learn more about executive coaching and life coaching. And I have a background in business, so I thought it was a nice integration of, psychology, business, and then the coaching. And I love all of it. So I loved integrating, the coaching in with, and then adding the psychology concepts and principles into my coaching work. And so now I do, probably a little more coaching than therapy. And then I'm building up my speaking business. And of course, promoting my new book. Yes, exciting.
It's exciting. So now let's fast forward, right? So doing therapy since 2006, so a long time. So now really getting introduced to executive coaching. And then in 2020, now you're at that point where it's just like, I want to do this more. I need some structured systems. So that's where we started working together. We did my 5-month group program. Now let's take it from there. So talk about a little bit about what you felt like. What did you walk away with from the program? Because then I want to see where you've gone from there since we've reconnected now. But talk about from a programming standpoint, what are the key things that you took away that helped you structure your business?
Yeah, for sure. I think, some of the key things was to really increase your visibility, with your target markets. And at that time, I really wasn't very visible. So that's when you encouraged us during the 5-month program to start a newsletter and a podcast. Or both, really, or do go like live videos on Facebook. And so I wasn't as comfortable with the live videos, which I'm still not. So I need to overcome that. But I did start the podcast and I started the newsletter. And so that was great because it did increase my visibility. And over time, I built up my email list. So I think I started with, well, nobody really, and maybe like 5 friends or family members. And now I mean, it's still not large really, but I think I have 170 or something. So it's getting there, but I haven't focused on it, but I started the podcast, and so to increase your visibility. And then I also started doing like LinkedIn posts and kind of really getting clear about where do I want to focus my efforts. And that was huge, rather than doing, 10 different things, right? To kind of really get clear about who is my ideal clients, where do I really want to get most or have most of them come from. And so I decided, LinkedIn and Facebook for me, given who I work with. So to do more posting on a regular basis, and then really trying to, and you were really great about, networking, but really following up with people and sharing what you do more, and, let people know what you do. And then if they show an interest, to kind of follow up with them and just to kind of see if this is they may be interested. If the timing is right, to be open to coaching.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So now you're writing an email, right? You start doing that on a weekly basis as well. Start to talk about how your business evolved and what led into this book, so we can get a feel for how this developed.
Sure. Well, I started doing the newsletters, and like I said, I wasn't sure what to write about. So I was kind of experimenting. I did a few different ideas, but I found when I just kind of did these reflections, I was getting a lot of positive feedback. So people would email me from my list and say they really loved what I just wrote, and it was very uplifting and positive. And it was during the pandemic, so I really wanted to, help uplift people and provide some coping strategies for all of us when we're anxious, stressed, set boundaries when things were getting crazy, right? So all of that, and I did. Yeah, I did over the course of maybe 85, I think I've done. So I did it weekly for about 1.5 or 2 years, and then I shifted it to biweekly. But at the end, with all the positive feedback, and I thought, well, my God, I have enough to, integrate into a book. So that's what I was, and I thought, well, and wouldn't it be, and I wanted it. I'm like, wouldn't it be nice to have a book so I could just open it up and read these reflections and share, and other people can do the same. So, that's what gave me the idea for the book. And then I thought, well, why not 52 weeks? You could read one at a time, because it was written weekly, right? So you could read one at a time and really, integrate, take it in and reflect on it, and then really get to apply it. So and that's how it came to be. I thought it'd be, and then I talked to some friends and colleagues about titles, and, so much of the concepts of the book are really about developing greater self-love and confidence in your life and for yourself and in your work. So that's how that came to be.
It's so cool because it just kind of came from what you were doing anyways. So I think as coaches, sometimes we think, oh my gosh, writing a book or doing anything, so essentially you're saying the 52 weeks of self-love really are 52 entries that you did over the course of probably 1.5 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. About 1.5 years, right. And a lot of people do that. I mean, for the coaches out there, if you're writing blog posts, regularly, you encourage people to do blog posts, right? Or email, whatever it is, whatever you're writing, a lot of it could be integrated and into an ebook or a book like this. If you've written enough if you give it time over a year and a half, it's totally doable. And it's much easier to do it that way, because you're not thinking of it as I've got to write a book and sit down and try to, get overwhelmed with that. And it can be very intimidating, right? So, I mean, this is my second book, so that did help too. I kind of had the process, and I had some connections, and just in terms of how to publish it. And I didn't have to, I knew I wanted to self-publish versus go through the agony of deciding that.
Right, exactly. So much easier, right?
So much easier. So that was really helpful. But in terms of writing it, if they take it one week at a time, it's amazing what you can do. Yeah.
Talk about the concept of this. We talked about the 52 weeks, right? Helping with self-love, self-awareness, right? With women. Talk about a little bit more in terms of how you came into that, right? Because your message, when we started off, you had ideas, but that was an evolution of really figuring out who you want to help. You've talked about your target audience. So talk about that a little bit, whether it's part of your story, but so people get a feel for kind of the premise of this and kind of what you do.
Sure, sure. Well, and that's a great question. I mean, it's really been an evolution, and prior to the book, in my first book, I wrote about self-care. And self-care was a huge theme in my personal life, but also in many of the clients, the women I worked with over the years. We're not very good at that, right? And we're conditioned to, kind of like help everybody else and then put ourselves last, really. So self-care was a huge theme. And then I think over time, I also realized, like we also struggled with self-worth, like really recognizing and knowing our worth and then charging for it. So as coaches, we often undercharge and undervalue ourselves, and I'm guilty of that. For many years, I did that, Um, and so it also made, I really thought about it. I'm like, well, why are we doing that? And then how is that connected to self-love, right? And our sense of worth is very connected to, our ability, or how much we really value ourselves and really know ourselves and love ourselves in all different, aspects. And so that kind of came into, and then it's related to confidence, right? The more self-love and acceptance we have, the greater confidence we have in who we are and what we do, so in our personal lives, but also, in our coaching work with others. And so the book and the themes really came out of how can I help women, and it helps for, men can read this too. It's not like, but how can you really develop greater, confidence and self-worth and acceptance, and really, bring a kindness and a loving relationship to yourself, because that is one of the core, foundations of my work with anyone, whether it's executive coaching, therapy, or life coaching. I always work with everyone on strengthening their relationship to themselves, really building a solid, loving, accepting relationship. And positive. So they really, no matter what they're doing, whatever role they're in, they feel this strong connection with themselves. And then from there comes, then they can better set boundaries. They can make big changes in their life because they've got that confidence. They've got that sense of self. And it just happens, it unfolds really naturally. So I wanted to integrate that. Most of what I've written, it's all of that's in there about how to develop like a friendship with yourself, right? A positive friendship with yourself. And how do you let go of judgment and regrets and, all of these things that hold us back, right? And really bring in more kindness and compassion for ourselves, and really develop that, that love and connection. And then many of us are struggling with stress and fear. So I wanted to address that. Boundaries can be very helpful with stress, right? And anxiety. So how do you learn to set healthy boundaries for yourself, which I know a lot of women struggle with. So I added that, I wrote about that. And mindset's huge. Like as you and I worked on, right? And my mindset wasn't so great. When we started working together, and I had fears, and I really wasn't clear about my worth either. And so that was really like, as I've grown and really learned the value of that, and having an abundance mindset, right, versus scarcity, all of this, that's in the book as well. Trying to integrate pieces of that, and how important mindset is. So if you shift your perspective, right, what's your self-talk? Many times we have these loops, these like, I call them like flip a switch. One of the chapters is flip the switch. And so, something happens, you get triggered, and all of a sudden the switch goes on and all these negative thoughts start spiraling, right? And then it brings you down. So you can flip the switch and bring more positive, confidence building, thoughts and self-talk. So yeah, I'll pause now since
I mean, this is it, right? That's been your journey. And everything that you've gone through, like you said, when we started off, right, you had to work on your mindset and the scarcity mindset, right? We had to work on abundance and work. And so it's part of the reason why I was excited to see you with the book was when we spoke, at the end of the webinar, when you shared with me that you authored this book, your second book, what I saw in you immediately, because at that point we hadn't spoken in like over 4 years since we finished the book, right?
Right.
What really struck me when you were talking about the book was your confidence, your enthusiasm with it, and your excitement to promote it and get it out there. Like I could tell you were like promoting it, and you're like, hey, and there was another woman that stayed at the end of the webinar with us, remember?
Oh,
And
yeah.
you were talking about it, and you weren't like hard selling, but you're just, yeah, check it out, check it out. And Dana, I was very impressed because I could really feel the maturity that you had, because most people, you know, are afraid to share their message to anybody, never mind publish it in a book where it's written in stone, so to speak, right? That takes a lot of confidence,
Right.
and a lot of inner work. And then and it was just that contrast of the time from when I left you to when I just saw you, and I'm like, wow, I could tell the work that you had done on yourself. And obviously I want to have you on because of this great accomplishment. But in addition to that, I really have seen, even as you talk about it now, like you see it from a different perspective. And that's to me, that's a testament to probably even just writing this for yourself. All right. But the work that you've done.
Yeah, no, thank you for all of that. That's very, I appreciate that. I do. I feel I do. I feel much more peaceful, much more, much more confidence, and yeah, self-acceptance through, like I said, like self-love and self-acceptance, and it is life changing. I mean, when you really, have a strong relationship with yourself, and really, have that acceptance and the kindness towards yourself, and honor your feelings. I'm going to talk about that, and prioritize your happiness. So I made one of the big things, which we haven't even touched on, but I was in the East Coast when we were doing the program. I relocated during the pandemic. I literally drove across the country in my car.
Yeah, that was during the program, or right afterwards, wasn't it?
That was after. Yeah, shortly after I left, and I drove across the country, and I moved to Vegas. And so I'm here in Vegas, and I am much happier here. I mean, I love it here, and I love being in the sunshine, and I love the outdoor lifestyle. So that's definitely helped, all of it. But that was me prioritizing my happiness, and honoring myself, and what my dreams were, what I wanted. And it all relates to, this relationship with yourself, loving yourself, wanting to, I deserve happiness. I deserve to have my dreams come true, just like all of us. Right. And it's so much, I think it's so much more doable and possible when you do have a healthy, loving relationship with yourself, and feel confident.
100%. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how these books, this one and the other one, how they've helped you with your coaching business, what you've seen with it?
Yeah, well, the first one really definitely helped me get speaking engagements. So I wrote, I didn't really do much speaking beforehand, but I started writing articles, around the book when I was promoting it, which I will plan to do for this one. And then people would find it, and then they would invite me to speak on different topics related to the book, what work-life balance, stress, things like that. So yeah, this one it just came out. So, but I'm already started reaching out to organizations. And I'm going to, contact women's groups and associations, and, let them know I, just finished this, and we talked about that. And I'm hoping I will then get some nice speaking engagements from that, and maybe some, coaching work or trainings for them, internally. So yeah, I mean, and there's ways of building, there's ways of making some money on Amazon with the book, which I'm learning now. So I'm investing a little bit in trying to figure out how to, make some money with the book, but then also through coaching and speaking and things like that. Yeah.
That's huge. Like I always look at a book as, I'll call it a 5-pound business card. Like you said, like you have your book, and now you can look for organizations that are relevant, where your relevant audience is.
Right.
And say, not only hopefully they can come to you by putting it out there, like you said, writing those articles, etc., but then you can be proactive, and you can call these organizations up and, hey, I just authored my second book, and here's what I'm speaking on. How do you select speakers, etc.? And that starts to give you exposure,
right?
Your audience, and
right? Exactly. Right. No, it's great. It is, because how else would they find you, right? If you're posting helps, and I share it in the email list, and I actually did start I did start a 52 weeks to self-love book club. We do
cool.
meet monthly, yeah. So we meet weekly, and we're going through the book together. So,
cool.
So that's pretty neat. Yeah, I'm enjoying that. And it started out small. It's like a pilot program. But if I really enjoy doing it and they like it, I may continue it, for a few more months. But yeah, you could go out there like proactively and let companies know, and women's associations. I think like you said, it's like it could be a great business card for sure. And hopefully
Absolutely.
that's the way it goes. Yeah.
This is
So
it's so exciting to see where you evolve to. Tech,
yeah,
as we start to wrap this up, talk
sure.
us through like the next few years for you, where you see your business going, what you're doing, at least what your vision is.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been giving that some thought.
Right.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to, spend this year kind of focusing on promoting the book and through speaking engagement. So I'm going to join Toastmasters because I've heard good things about that. And yeah, promote the book to women's organizations and associations, and really just keep focusing on building the coaching business, more life and executive coaching. And I also added I also do family business consulting because I have a background in business, and my master's was in marriage and family therapy, so family systems. So I integrated both of that, and so family business consulting, which I really enjoy doing too. So yeah, so I'm out there now networking more and meeting people, and then of course promoting my book when I can.
It's so
And
exciting.
yeah, and eventually I'd love to like move abroad. So that's my goal, maybe in maybe 5 years or so, live abroad and travel because I love to travel. And so I'd love to be able to do this more remotely and yeah, sell my book and do talks all over. I mean, it'd be great to do talks all over the world, the US and the world. Why not?
See, you're painting this vision for yourself, just like you moved from where you did right to out to Vegas.
Yeah.
So there's this vision that I hear from you that you're creating as you go along, and
Mm,
you're not afraid to just expand your thoughts and expand your vision to create something that you want. And
right.
even now, I remember because before you had a lot more therapy clients than coaching clients.
Right.
And I remember at the beginning of today, you're like, now I have more coaching clients than I do therapy clients.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's very nice.
So that's like, and that's the shift. And that's a 4-year journey right there, right?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. No, it took a while. I mean, well, the first 2 years I didn't do much because it was the pandemic. I didn't market or network and things like that. But yeah, it probably would have taken 2 years. Probably would have been less time. But yeah, it takes some time, and yeah, it was definitely it is a journey. I mean, it feels like all of it is a journey. The other thing I did was I like doubled and then tripled my rates. So that's also hallelujah.
That's awesome. That just goes testament to exactly what you're talking about, self-worth and confidence in what you're bringing to the table.
That's right.
It's
Yeah,
valuable.
it's amazing. They're all right. It's invaluable,
Yeah.
really. I mean, when you value your work and you do good work and you're really helping people, then you don't mind asking for. It's much easier to ask for the rates that help you live a healthy and happy life, right? Instead of struggling and feeling, yeah.
Yes.
So
And
I can see.
surprise, people have the money, right? They always did, and they always will. It's
Yes.
more a matter of what we're willing to charge from how we believe in ourselves and our value than what we bring.
That's right. That's right. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, if they want to work with you, they find the money. They have it or they find the money. And then others, if they're not really, and again, it's also like, and I think you kind of shared this with us too, if they're not yet able to invest in themselves, if they don't really, or maybe they're not ready, but then they won't. And that's okay. Then they're not really ready. Or they don't have their own self-worth is really not high enough to invest in themselves at this point, and that's okay too.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's key. Yeah.
So if people want to get a copy of your book, and we can put this in the links afterwards, but where can they go to get maybe even a signed copy or even just off of
Yeah,
Amazon?
yeah, well, sure. If they could on Amazon, they could get it for sure. If they want a signed copy, they could reach out to me directly. I have, at least I think 100 books here, so I could, yeah, they could reach out to me directly. At do you want to give them my email or what would work best?
Yeah,
Or
just maybe your website or your email, whatever works, and
yeah,
we can put it in the chat
go
afterwards.
yeah, we'll give you my website. Then you could reach out via email and then or call me 702 number. And yeah, I'll give you an author signed copy and yeah, send it to you. It'd be great.
There's nothing better than a signed copy. I love signed copies.
I
So
know, I
thank you
know.
so much for that, by the way.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Dana, I'm so appreciative of you. I'm so happy for you. I'm so grateful to share this journey with you and to see kind of like your trajectory is only like upward. And so where you're going to be in the next 4 years, and we'll have you on again
Yes,
an
well, I'm
X amount
happy.
of time and
Yeah,
see how you've brought to fruition what you've shared with us today.
that would be awesome. I'd love that. Yeah, and you too. I'm so happy with your success, and yeah, you keep going as well. You're inspirational and really motivational too. So I
Thank
really,
you.
it's great seeing that too. Yeah, and I love your enthusiasm. So it's really nice.
Love it.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Yeah.
Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll be back next week for more. Take
Sounds
care.
great. Okay.
Bye.
Take care.